Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, the state of the state and election politics collide as Mississippi's governor and his likely challenger in November trade rhetoric on TV. We'll hear excerpts from Republican Tate Reeves' address to lawmakers and the Democratic response from Public Service Commissioner Presley. And author Margaret McMullan discusses her concerns about education intersecting with politics in Mississippi. It's all ahead this Sunday on Mississippi Insight. We're outside the state capitol where just about a week ago, Governor Tate Reeves delivered his 2023 State of the State address to lawmakers. Delivering the Democratic response to the state's top Republican is the man he's likely to face in November, Public Service Commissioner Presley. Both speeches covered some of our top issues in the state: the economy, health care, crime, TANF scandal, and much more. Well, this morning, we're going to play some excerpts from each speech as these two candidates square off on issues that Mississippians care deeply about. We'll begin with Governor Reeves speaking at the state capitol in Jackson Monday evening on the economy.
As you've heard me say before, the way we measure success is in the wages of our workers, in the success of our students, and winning the war on our values. Mississippi is hitting the target on all of these fronts. First, wages. Since 2019, we've raised per capita personal income in Mississippi by approximately $7,000, or almost 18%. We are boosting the money that Mississippi families are bringing home, especially right now as we combat rising inflation from wasteful spending in Washington, D.C. This wasn't by accident. We were able to accomplish this momentous feat because we never wavered from the tried and true economic and fiscally conservative principles that have set up states for growth for generations. And we were able to accomplish this despite the left's best attempts to grow government. Our conservative reforms and sound budget management have laid the foundation for this economic boom. It's the policies of yesterday that have paved the pathway to today's prosperity. It's led us to a $4 billion budget surplus. $4 billion. It's led to investing a historic amount in jobs training. And because of that, we have the lowest unemployment rate in our state's history. It resulted in a record $6 billion in new capital investment in 2022, which is more than 7 times the previous average of approximately $900 million a year before I became governor.
Mississippi is at the bottom of the nation for economic growth. We're one of only 3 states that have lost population, and the numbers recently released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows 0 job growth in Mississippi. We're one of only 7 states in this country that tax groceries. In the Mississippi Delta, there's only 1 pediatrician for every 4,000 kids. It's no surprise that we lead the nation in the deaths of children under the age of 1. How is that pro-life? What does all that tell you? That Tate Reeves is only pro-life until you're born, and then he's done caring about you. While he brags about budget surpluses, family budgets are running out. And while you are careful with your own money, he's throwing your tax dollars away. He's been caught in the middle of the largest public corruption scandal in our state's history. $77 million of taxpayer money that should have gone to working families that are struggling instead went to fund things like a volleyball court, and paid for speeches by famous people that were never even given. Some was even given to Tate Reeves' own personal trainer. And you should tune in because we're only just now learning how bad and how deep and possibly illegal all of this activity was.
And let me say this as well. My administration will go after all crime within our jurisdiction, regardless of the crime committed, regardless of who did it, regardless if it happened on the street or an office building. My administration is and will continue to hold criminals accountable. That's why my administration remains committed to delivering justice and recouping every dollar possible from those who stole Mississippians through the theft of TANF dollars. Again, I ran for governor to fix Mississippi's problems, not to hide them. Which brings me to my next area of focus, our state's healthcare system. Mississippi is not immune to the struggles facing healthcare systems across the country. Together, we should keep working to improve Mississippians' access to quality healthcare, and together, we should keep working to ensure Mississippi's healthcare system meets the needs of our people. It starts with leveling the playing field. Most people do not know that it is illegal to open a new healthcare facility that competes with other institutions. We are all frustrated and worried by the threats that some hospitals may close. The first step should be allowing new ones to open. By reforming Mississippi's Certificate of Need laws, we can root out anti-competitive behavior that blocks the formation of medical facilities and prevents the delivery of life-saving health care to Mississippians. We should continue to strengthen the pipeline of medical professionals by doubling and even tripling down on our improved workforce development strategy. And we should pass legislation that levels the playing field for hospitals with expanded residency programs.
Tonight I listened to Governor Reeves' State of the State address. I watched his leadership over the years, and I know and see what you know and see. Mississippi is full of good people, but we're led by horrible politicians, and it's time for that to change. The reality is that under Tate Reeves' leadership, we're moving in the wrong direction. Nothing makes that clearer than where I'm standing tonight. I'm at what once was the Pioneer Community Hospital in Newton. It used to employ over 200 people. Now it's shut down for good. No doctors roaming these halls, no nurses tending to patients, no ambulances outside, no cars in the parking lot. Right now, there are 38 more rural hospitals just like the one I'm standing in, and they're on the brink of shutting their doors. If hospitals continue to close, the impact will be catastrophic. Jobs lost and health care for thousands gutted. Every time we close a rural hospital, folks have to drive farther and farther to see a doctor, and the true sad fact is that some will die. This is the reality that Tate Reeves has chosen to put us in. Make no mistake, he has made this choice. We have a solution. By extending Medicaid to the working people of our state, we can keep hospitals across Mississippi from experiencing the same fate as this one. All Tate Reeves has to do is lift his hand, take an ink pen, and sign on a line. Instead, he lacks the backbone, and he will sit on his hands while people lose their jobs, some lose their lives, and our hospitals close. When Tate Reeves finally wakes up and asks why hospitals in Mississippi are closing, he should look in the mirror.
This legislative session, I urge the legislature to think outside the box when it comes to improving Mississippi's healthcare system. Don't simply cave under the pressure of Democrats and their allies in the media who are pushing for the expansion of Obamacare, welfare, and socialized medicine. Instead, seek innovative free market solutions that disrupt traditional healthcare delivery models, increase competition, and lead to better health outcomes for our fellow Mississippians. Please do not settle for something that won't solve the problem because it could potentially and only temporarily remove the liberal media's target on your back. You have my word that if you stand up to the left's push for endless government-run health care, I will stand with you.
I want to listen to you. I want to fight for you. Together, we can build a Mississippi that focuses on the future, not the past. We can build an economy that works for everybody. And it all starts in Jackson next year with a strong ethics package that roots out corruption and ensures that our politicians are serving us rather than being sold off to the highest bidder. It's time to send a signal to the special interests that the party is over and their day of complete control of our state has come to an end. It continues by funding rural hospitals and police officers, not stealing from them. Yes, we should fund the police, increase health care, and invest in education. Together, we're going to end this insane tax on groceries. We're going to make sure folks from Walnut on the Tennessee line to Waveland on the Gulf Coast can walk with pride because they have a job and they have hope for their children's future.
We are blessed to live in a wonderful state. We are blessed to have wonderful neighbors. We are blessed by one common God who smiles down upon Mississippi. I have no doubt that our future is brighter than ever before, and that together we will continue to build this great state upwards. God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless this great state that we all love, Mississippi.
Mississippi, I love you. If you need me, you know where to find me. It won't be under the chandeliers, tinkling glasses with the rich and powerful. It'll be with you. I'll be on your side. The holes in the floor have been fixed in that old house that I grew up in. But the values that my mama taught me and the love that made it a home are still there. Now, I don't care who you voted for or what political party you're in. I know that we're neighbors and we look out for each other. May God bless you, and may God bless the great state of Mississippi.
That's Democratic gubernatorial candidate Brandon Presley and the Republican incumbent Governor Tate Reeves speaking Monday. Transcripts from their full speeches are available on our website, WJTV.com. We're back in a moment. Classroom culture has become a focal point among social conservatives in Mississippi. Buzz terms such as critical race theory and wokeism pepper the public discourse. Efforts to pass some form of parents' bill of rights have fallen flat in the legislature so far, but political pressure in the classroom remains as educators grapple with fresh regulation on their lesson plans. Margaret McMullan is a Mississippian who's written about her concerns on this point, and she is the author of several award-winning books, including In My Mother's House and Where the Angels Lived. She is a recipient of a National Endowment of Arts Fellowship in Literature, and she joins us from her home in Pass Christian. Margaret McMullan, welcome to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you so much for having me, Byron. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you. Well, you wrote a piece for the political site, thebulwark.com, titled Republican Lawmakers Might Not Be Able to Handle the Truth, but Kids Can. And you had Mississippi in mind among some other states. First, what prompted you to write this column?
Well, when the Arkansas governor made an executive order on her first day in office banning the teaching of critical race theory in K through 12 public schools in Arkansas, I thought about the time when I was visiting Arkansas to talk about my book that was out back then called Sources of Light. And I was there at Central High School talking to students about the civil rights movement, and that's when Sources of Light is set. And I was talking about 1962, Jackson, Mississippi, and I was talking about a sit-in, which is a scene in the novel. And I asked for a show of hands, from the students, who of you knows what a sit-in is? Now, this is Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is basically the home of the Little Rock Nine, the 9 African-American students who basically in 1957 integrated an all-white high school. And so many of these students didn't know what a sit-in was, and I was just flabbergasted. And when I asked the teachers why that was, they basically said that a lot of the parents and a lot of the teachers just didn't want to talk about it anymore. They wanted to move on. So when I read these executive orders in Arkansas, and now it's kind of a rash of executive orders that's occurring in mostly Republican-run states, it really concerned me that so many students now are going to miss out on some difficult conversations about our history in America.
You wrote about the Mississippi legislature's so-called ban on critical race theory last session, and it's the bill that doesn't explicitly define critical race theory. Remind people what this legislation does and what sort of impact it has in the classrooms.
Well, it's a strange legislation. From what I can tell, critical race theory is not taught in K through 12 public schools in Mississippi. It's critical race theory is an academic concept that looks into how systemic racism impacts American laws and institutions. As far as I know, the only critical race theory class that's offered in Mississippi is at the University of Mississippi Law School. So it's not even taught. I think it's really kind of a manufactured fear. And I think it's sort of keeping students and teachers from talking about difficult subjects in history and race in the classroom.
I want to read a passage from your article. You said, quote, how are students exposed to learn how to deal with these weighty subjects if they can't read about them and read about them from different perspectives? The solution is not to take away the books that might address these issues. What issues are we losing sight of in terms of our children's understanding of our history?
I think, you know, that moment in Little Rock at Central High School was an example. I mean, these were students who did not know about civil rights history in a town where much of it occurred. The effects of these bans, these bills to ban the teaching of difficult subject, in my opinion, rob students of an education. You know, we shouldn't be afraid of students reading and learning and discussing all matter of subjects. You know, I was judging the Scholastic writing contest, and I do that every year. And these students are coming out of a pandemic where, you know, most of their learning has been virtual. Depression is up, poverty is up, suicide rates are up. You know, I was born in Newton, Mississippi, at a hospital that's now shut down. There's a health crisis in Mississippi. There's a teaching shortage, and our elected officials are choosing to spend an incredible amount of time arguing and thinking about critical race theory and banning books. And I just kind of don't see the wisdom of that. These students need a safe place to discuss uncomfortable topics, and that's usually in the classroom. And I don't think we should, you know, tie up our teachers with any red tape or possible lawsuits for simply talking about difficult moments in history.
We know that there are some parents themselves that may have concerns about what and how their children are taught. Should they have those concerns, and are there productive ways to address these concerns without overt censorship?
Yeah, I think there are. I don't know if, I mean, you visit classrooms, Byron. You know, you've seen how hard our teachers work and how hard the students work. I think there is always, you know, it's difficult to find the right balance for parental involvement, but I don't think teachers need parents micromanaging their lesson plans. I think I know I understand the concern for parental involvement, but I don't understand why any government administration is making more rules. I kind of thought this government was in the business of shrinking their involvement in our lives.
Is there also concern, I mean, I know we face a teacher shortage, but the more rules you put on teachers, do you think this could impact less folks wanting to get into the field of education?
Absolutely, and that's scary to me. That's very scary, because we do need more people interested in going into teaching. You know, why not raise their salaries? Why ban books, and why make their lessons more difficult to consider? I mean, if I were a teacher right now, you know, you've got to go in and worry about school shootings, worry about whether or not you're going to be sued by a parent for bringing up civil rights or race in the class. I worry for teachers, and my heart goes out to them.
Margaret McMullan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
All right, and we'll be right back. If you have comments or questions about today's show, or suggestion for an interview or segment, drop us a line. Email our producers. The address is news@wjtv.com. Big thanks to Margaret McMullan for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown from all of us here at 12 News. Make it a great weekend.